Okay, so we can start now. I think we are running out of time. Good morning once again. So this is our second session on our makeup class for today, as discussed and agreed in class. Just make sure that actually we have the session is running. So in the morning we looked at the first part of the lesson. You can check and send me some comments just in case you need any help or you are unable to follow through the session for today. So I'll start with the chapter 3 for now, and then I'll move on to the rest of the chapters. Okay, so I think we can proceed. Those who will be joining in, they will find us on the way. I think it's almost 10 past now, and I would like to proceed with some background noise, but I'll computer and some key functionalities of the few components. So those are the ones that I want to highlight for this lecture, to enable you to appreciate some of these components. So this is the outline. So the first part talks about the initial phase. Once you've put all the components together, in chapter 2 you are just dealing with the hardware. Once you've put all the components together, you need now to install the software on top of the hardware that you have. And once you've done that, there are certain information that you need in order to enable you to move on and be able to deal with the rest of the remaining components. So you have some videos that will demonstrate on, for example, the BIOS stroke the UEFI menu. So the BIOS is a chip that comes on the computing device, either the laptop or the computer. The basic functionality, the initial functionality of the BIOS is to check and just make sure that those components that you had put together, the hard drive, the memory, the RAM itself, and a few other components, they're in good shape and they are functioning. And then the computer will signal to you before you can load any Windows. The computer will signal to you in case there is a challenge. So the motherboard will come with the manual where they will inform you the different types of beep sounds, which indicates different types of problems. For example, 2 beep sounds every after maybe 30 milliseconds could mean that actually the computer is unable to detect memory, and so you can't proceed, no. And so you need to go back and look at the memory, the way you installed it. Probably it's not sitting very well on the motherboard. So that's the BIOS. So it gives the initial testing, just checks the hardware for you. Once everything is passed, to pass on the booting process to the OS, to record the boot sector on the hard drive, and then bring up Windows, and then or the operating system that is installed there, and then you proceed. Booting is a term that we use when a computer is starting up, so just the starting up process. in a computer. So we refer to that as the booting process. So for the BIOS, what it does is we call it the post power on self test, just to check if everything is okay. So like I said, you can flash actually the BIOS, you can upgrade, you remove what is there, the processes, and then you install a new maybe version to allow you to do more things. But most of them, sometimes they come locked. There are some pins on the motherboard which we call jumpers. Those are the ones that you can use actually to do a reset on the of the BIOS. On the motherboard also, you'll find a special battery called the CMOS cell. The CMOS is very critical because it helps to deal with what we call clocking, but also maintains the time of your machine, your computer, the clocking. So sometimes when everything completely jams, sometimes when the computer jams, these are some of the techniques that have worked, that are used even in the past, where you just need to get to the motherboard, go and remove this CMOS cell, replace it with another one, and then you can proceed now with the rest of the process. Sometimes this can just solve some of the complex problems that you are unable to address. So the CMOS cell is a critical component. The other ones, the firmware that you will find actually that comes also with the motherboard. Okay, so there is a lab that you need to do. I think that speaks to the BIOS and the settings. Actually, if you know how to maneuver around the BIOS, you can also you can protect your laptop actually in advance, something that I would like you to do by setting a password on the BIOS. In case somebody steals the laptop, they will not be able to use it unless if they know how to crack down the BIOS password. It will not boot, or it will boot, but it will ask them that actually put the BIOS password. If they don't manage to do that, then they can't use the laptop, no. And it's possible also to do some basic tracking. Okay. Okay, so just a minute. I think my laptop is okay. I think we're good to go. Okay, so I was on the part of the BIOS, and actually you can update this one. It's the firmware. There are labs that you need to do, like I said, to help you to deal with the BIOS. The most important part that you'll be dealing with almost on a daily basis is related to the installation of Windows. Windows is a key part, but also you need to know how to install the other software, operating systems, which includes Linux. For us, I think these will be critical and allows us actually to do a lot of things. You will be required, I think, by most of your colleagues to do a lot of upgrades because Windows has crashed, or because they have viral infection and a few other components related to the operating system. So installation of Windows is a very good skill set for you, and just troubleshooting. So we'll do this as a lab. You install as many times as you can. I think in the long run you need also to have the skill set on how you can do dual booting by installing two operating systems that allows you to, we can preferably maybe a Linux version. When working with upgrades or trying to work with your the installation, one of the critical issues that you need to deal with is the issue of power, and so it's very important to check the rating, and it takes us back to those initial formulas that we used to have. Usually the device that helps us to deal with the power issue is the power supply. The power supply has got a red button behind it. Apart from the switch for switching on and off, it has got a red button behind it, and it has got some ratings there. It's one of the errors that actually is made if not properly taken care of. It can be a big problem actually if not well taken care of in terms of the okay, in terms of the rating. So I've had experiences when I was just starting to work with these things where when it was shipped from for example the US, it was rated at 110, and then you didn't actually pay particular attention then, just to realize that actually you are plugging in 110 to a 240, and so it will just blow up from the word go. So this was one of the quality. Okay, let's continue. Okay, the network is not very good this side. Okay, just give me a minute. I just resolve one thing. Okay, so let's see how far we will go. I think the network has stabilized on my side. Let's see, go through. So I was talking about the issue about the power supply. That actually, let me just start from where I was here on the power supply. So the section where I'm supposed to be is here. I think that's where the break of transmission in terms of the power supply. So like I indicated, that actually it's important to make sure that actually you take caution when you're choosing the correct power supply. It takes us back to our initial groupings. You can keep power for a given period of time. This at least can keep you going for a given period of time before you completely run out of functionalities that you need to deal with. So if I just go back, because of the breakages, initially we were just looking at the startup of the computer when it is just booting. That is the first part that we looked at. The second part that we looked at is the issues to do with the electric power, which is very critical and needs to be handled with caution. Otherwise, this can also be a big problem. The most important part is actually the rating for the power supply, which can be 110 for Japan and the US, depending on where you bought the machine, or 240 for the UK, and this part of the world also where we are. The third part that we are going to look at is issues to do with the functionality itself, and we call it advanced functionality. So here we look at the key components, and one of them is the processor. So for the processor, we have two versions that are currently on the market, or the groupings that we can look at. The first one is generally referred to as a reduced instruction set. The other one is called complex instruction set. So these, again, in fourth year, third and fourth year, I think we will look at the details for this. But just in a nutshell, a processor, when it's built by Intel or the other guys, they have to work with it at the transistor level, or the bit level. And so when you want the processor to do something for you, for example, how is the processor going to add numbers? So you pre-program the processor on how it's supposed to do the addition of the numbers. Okay. If you want to subtract or multiply numbers, you give those instructions, you wire them inside the processor not to do that. So these instructions, an instruction on how to add, an instruction on how to subtract, an instruction on how to display something, these instructions, when you put them together, they are referred to as instruction set. So the difference between the two architectures above is that the first one, the instructions are very small, but the way the chip is designed is a little bit complex. Few instructions, but the chip is very complex. And so this just speeds up the execution. You don't have a lot of them. The other one is you design a simple chip. You reduce the complication, but you have so many instructions in order to compensate on that, so that you can deal with the rest of the arrangement. So these are the two types of approach that are there on the market today. There are several ways in which you can use to speed up the processor. One of the most common one is what they call hyperthreading. You can make your computer actually operate much faster by using what we call hyperthreading, but we can't encourage you. It may not be good for you. So you can use some other ways or other method of dealing with that. The other method that has been used so far, and which is being largely used, is a way where you multiply the number of cores. So for this particular one, just a minute. So it's where you use the number of cores, and so when you increase the number of cores, you also increase the power of the computing device itself. And so what we have for most of you, even now, is just the computing device with the improved number of cores. The other one is where we deal with virtualization. Virtualization helped also to improve the computing power. It's just the issue of speeding up the computer. The multiple cores, we have the single core, the regular ones, but most of the laptops starting from, for example, from Intel, i3, i5, i7, if you've got that kind of a machine, usually these will be from quad core going upwards. That is about 4 cores going upwards. You build these CPUs on a single chip, 4 of them, and then you allow them to interact and process the data. These CPUs will be sharing the memory, of course. You can also, the other part that is very critical is the processing graphics. And so there is what we refer to as another chip that you can refer to as a GPU, which can either be integrated into the CPU or it can be a separate unit. And so this just helps to improve the processing power. Because of the CPU functionality, it does generate a lot of heat. CPU and the GPU, these they usually generate a lot of heat, and in order for us to remove that heat, we use a heat sink. You can check these two that are here. The one on the bottom, made out of aluminium. So this one, you buy it separately, or sometimes it comes together with the CPU. Once you insert the CPU in the motherboard, there is special fluid that we put, and then you insert this heat sink on top. It comes with a fan, and then you plug the cable of the fan on the motherboard. And so when the machine is working, this will be able to generate, to remove the heat. The CPU itself will have, the metal casing also might have maybe 1 or 2 fans also inside to help disperse off the heat from the machines. So there are different cooling mechanisms that come with this, and these are shown in the graphics here. There is a way in which we need also to address the issue of power backup or the data backup. And so there are those methods there shown, about 4 of them: striping, mirroring, parity, and double parity. So striping, you just want to copy whatever data. If you want to save data, you split it and save it on multiple drives. Let's say 2 drives. So here the issue is to increase the storage space, but also to increase the speed at which you are going to access the data. The unfortunate part is that if one hard drive goes, because they are seen as one, those that you had put there, then you lose all the data. The second one is you have 2 hard drives and then you mirror them. The only challenge here is that if you have 2 hard drives which are 500 GB each, so when you put 2 hard drives, instead of having 1 terabyte, you only have 500, because whatever you are doing on hard drive A, it's being mirrored on hard drive B. And so this doesn't create anything. But the beauty is, once one of the hard drives goes down, you can always recover the data from the other hard drive. You just remove the other one that has gone down, press the other one, then it will copy the other data, and it allows you to move on. So the others below here, they use either striping or both striping and mirroring. And so you have these RAIDs, RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 2, RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, and then there is another one, 10 plus. These they just use different mechanisms, and there is a minimum number of hard drives that you need there in order for this method to work. The other part is the issue to do with the legacy ports. Most of the computers, if your computer that you're using was bought in the early 2000s or before the year 2000, there is a possibility it has all these ports that are here. DB25, the paper one, it's called sometimes the parallel port that we used to use to connect the printers, and then there is this yellow one, the one that was used largely for gaming console, the gaming port, and then you have the famous VGA and the serial, which also used to play a big part. The one that have been completely phased out now is the PS2 for the keyboard and the mouse. You just differentiate them with the color codes. The audio seemed to be persistent. For the laptop though, it's just one port, but for the desktop, there are those that you can use for your microphone, for external, in, and then the other part. The graphics for the video, we have the VGA, which is the older version. Like I mentioned again in the morning, we have DVI and HDMI. For the USB, it comes with a variety of ports. So we have moved into the various standards from 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 to 3.2. The higher the standard, the higher the transfer rate of the data. So 3.2 is much faster and better as compared to 1.0. Then these, they come also in varieties. There is type A, type B, and type C. Type A is the general USB that we use. And then type B, you can see that come a square one. We use it actually on the printers and the scanners. It's a square one. When you want to connect the printer to the computer or the scanning devices, type B usually works there. And then type C is taking over, I think almost everywhere. It's the one that most of you with smartphones are using. And I think they're trying to standardize even in laptops now. The charging port is USB, but type C for most of your devices. We looked at the cables, the type of cables that you're supposed to use to do the connection. For the internet, it's a special type of cable that we call UTP. You need to work around this with Mr. Teo next year when you start doing the networks. But I think I'll see if we have some time, if I can just show you how to create these cables and what kind of cables you use when you want to connect to what. So look at some of these as part of the lectures. So you have the glass component, which we call the RJ. So there is RJ45 for internet and the RJ11 that we use for telephone. So look at these components as we go on. The other cable that is very critical is coaxial. This one you need to know how to make it. I'll see if I can create a lab so that we can do generally the coaxial, how you can terminate the coaxial specifically for CCTV and your DSTV at home. This is another area where you can do one or two issues apart from repairing these PC repair. You can also do some installation of CCTV. After you complete this course, I think there isn't much there. We can discuss during the lab session for most of these. You can also install the DSTV, because it's all about just the cable itself, terminating it properly, and the rest, I think the configuration is just basic for most of these devices. So these are some of the things that you can do to keep yourselves going. Not only DSTV, but also the digital TV. There are quite a number, I think, that use satellite based, and with the satellite based internet that is coming in, unless if the cables come terminated, but even so sometimes they have challenges, you need to find a way. If you are tapping video in any way, apart from HDMI, these cables are key, and so also you need to know what kind of standard of the cable that you'll be using. So RG6 for high quality video, and the RG59 for relatively small quality, like DSTV. These cables are readily available, you can buy, and the connectors actually, they are readily available. These can be bought, but we'll see if we can provide some during the lab session. Then there are cables also that you can use inside the computer to connect the hard drives. Those are the ones that I'm showing here. The monitor is a key component, but there are some ways that you need to get to understand when you are dealing with the monitor. When you buy a laptop, most of these will be given to you. You just need to know which one is supposed to do what. So there is a screen size which we use, and so we this one we measure it in terms of diagonal from one corner to another, and it's in inches. So either the screen for the laptop or the TV, this is how we do these measurements. The clearness of the picture depends on the resolution, and so this one is dependent on the number of pixels that you have per given inch, and so there are numbers that we have, like there 1920/1080. So these are the pixels in the horizontal and the vertical sections. These are small dots that are drawn on your screen that are used to display the information. So what is a pixel? So this is a dot. It has got, which is able to display only 3 colors: red, green, blue. As you go on, we'll learn the science about these pixel issues. The color combinations is key for computing and computer science. I think everything zeroes down on this pixel thing. Remember last time while we gave you an assignment on the binary system? So a pixel, we use sometimes we can use 8 bits to just represent that comma dot, to represent these 3 colors, and you can have about 256 combination of each of these colors: red, green, blue. Red itself can be presented in 256 forms in terms of the color. And when you do these mixing and combinations, you have all the colors that you have. So pixels is just a dot which you have. They are depending on the resolution of your screen, you have these pixels across, like I showed you in the previous section, maybe about 1920 of them across, and then 1080 coming down, and so this determines on the quality of the picture that you get on your laptop or the TV screen. So the dot pitch, the distance between these pixels on the screen, the brightness, contrast, so the terminologies are there. Remember that the screen, the computer has to show you the screen It has to redraw it actually per given unit. So it's not like when you see things that you see on the screen, they are permanent. No. In principle, it draws whatever you see there, probably 50 times per second. And you know that actually whenever we are measuring these rates, we use heads, and so you can check the frequency at which your laptop draws whatever you see on the screen per second. And so this just looks like it's permanent because your eyes can't cope to look at that rate. So frames per second, just how many times it can flash the whole lot of that image per second. So there are these other terminologies that we use, like VGA. You've seen the TVs now marked as UHD and the rest. It's possible to use multiple monitors. You need to practice on this. Windows 10 going upwards has got a provision where you can extend your monitor, and you can have more than one screen to do your work or your display. The next part of this lecture is about configuration, and so you want to do the configuration and maybe upgrade or make your laptop or your computer work much better and faster. So the first part that you might want to do, you want to upgrade, for example, the motherboard. There are certain things that you might want to consider when you want to upgrade your computer. So the motherboard is key. So is the CPU and the RAM. So there are these steps that you need to consider when you want to upgrade the motherboard. How you are supposed to remove the components and start putting them back again one by one. We discussed this one. Upgrade of the CPU is another part also that you might want to look at again as you go on. The hard drive, you have to consider the types of cables that go there, the size of the hard drive, peripherals like the keyboard and a few other components. These are also take the rating and also the cabling also that is involved. The other one is the issue about the lab that you have to do in order to look at these other components. Okay, the last part of this session is just protecting the environment. How do you dispose of the materials after you've used your cartridge from the printer? Where do you throw it away? How do you throw it away? The monitors, the hard drives themselves, and a few other components, how do you dispose them off? So this one is very critical. Usually most organizations will keep it. Okay, so most of you already wrote the assessment for up to chapter 3. So here this is just some form of a revision to enable. But in the process, as I'm talking, I'm trying by all means also to emphasize some of the components that you need to work on, and those components that you need to watch and look through, because they'll be very critical in terms of the assessment. Okay, this one we'll deal with it. It's largely about troubleshooting, and troubleshooting is best when we have some hands-on assessment. Okay, the most important part here is the skill set. The more you practice on how to troubleshoot the computer or the computing devices, the better you get the experience, and there is no magic around it. If you don't work around it, you never know how to get to fix most of these devices. Like I said, this is important, it's key for you. You need to know how to work around most of this. It's part of our training, it's part of your the requirements. So for the troubleshooting session, it's just to look at the major problems and where they come from. So what has been put together here are some of the common problems that you will find. Your friends or people will bring to at your workplace, they'll bring most of these challenges, and you need to identify and locate the problem and be able to deal with it. One of the biggest challenges that comes computing devices is dust, and so once in a while you need to find a way of cleaning most of this dust. What you need to do as you go on is to get a blower, which you can buy also for yourself, and keep it. Maintenance of wherever there are computers, they will need help in terms of cleaning those machines so that you can remove dust and just clean them in general. And a blower is a key device that we use to deal with this one. You need to check also and just make sure that actually your components are sitting properly and they're able to function. Software, the updates for Windows, the drivers for the other gadgets that you put there, these you need to deal with them. There are issues to do with viruses also that you need to work on. So troubleshooting process is very key. One of the issues that we emphasize on this course is if you work in the help desk, when you go on internship, if you flash this certificate for this course, they will take you to work on the help desk. One of the issues is to know how to document and understand the problem of the client, so that you can find a solution for that one. Okay, so you need to know the processes and how to skillfully work around those problems. So there's documentation that has been given to show how you can work around this one, the process. You need to familiarize yourself with these processes. They are very key. The skill, like I said again, you can't learn it in a day, but you need to be on the ground to practice this, and then you will gain your thumbs or your fingers on how to get around these. So we'll be discussing these as we go on in terms of what needs to be done, but the labs will play a very critical role in terms of what needs to be done. So I would like to end here for now. I hope the session was okay from your side. The network was a little bit of a challenge. I think after 8 o'clock, generally the network is always a challenge, but I hope you can just go back since this video is readily available, and then stream it backwards. So what it means now is that from now onwards, I will try to make available all the assessments. I will activate them in advance, and then you move at your pace. The slides for IT Essentials, I will pick those that are critical, and then I will be highlighting some of the components that you need to know. But the most important part is for us to work on the lab sessions and be able to build up that skill set that you need in order to work with those cables that I talked about, identify the correct cables, and know how to connect them. Some of them we need to look at how you can terminate them, just how to deal with the computing device, how to use those transceivers, If one cable can't connect to a device, you need to know how to find the correct gadgets that can enable you to change from one cable to another so that you can still connect on the other device. So basically I think that's these are the things I think we'll be talking as we go on, but for now I think we can end here. Leave your comments in the chat. I would like to know how the lecture was, and if you were able to pick up from where I left on. I think the 1 hour is gone. I'll activate all the assessments again, 1 up to 4. I'll just make sure that actually they're up and running, and I think the 1 up to 3 they are there. But like I said, the others again they will be up and running. I will share the rest of the information on WhatsApp. For now I think we end here. Thank you.